Once, it was the most terrifying prison in Mexico. It also functioned as a place specialized in torturing prisoners, whether they were criminals who had made serious mistakes within the penal, enemies of the state, or political prisoners. There were cells of punishment, and for some time it even worked as a mixed prison, so it is said that there were many violations, murders, and abortions. Today it works as the general archive of the nation, but workers and visitors assure that in the place you feel a strange vibe, a heavy atmosphere, and that at all times, even in the enormous loneliness of the building in the afternoons when leaving and in the mornings before all employees arrive, you can hear noises or see shadows, and that even at night you can see people walking in the corridors, according to security workers. There have been few reports of inhabitants of these multi-family buildings who say that during the night they can hear sounds and cries. Others assure that they can also feel presences that surround the corridors and stairs. Some neighbors comment that the oldest in the place think it may be the souls of the students killed in the 1968 massacre and the people who died there in the brutal earthquake of '85. They say that in the old building of external relations it is common to observe shadows during the night, and that in the square of the Three Cultures on rainy nights people are perceived running towards the church and the entrance of the buildings. Formerly known as Casa La Moira, this is another of the places that some consider the most haunted house in the whole city. They say that around 1970 a boy named Marcos came into this place and began to hear and see very, very strange things, which caused him so much fear that he ran away from the property and never could explain with certainty what happened. Not satisfied with the fright that experience had given him, Marcos returned a few years later to try to decipher what had caused him that tremendous fright in his childhood. However, this time he could not flee and ended up committing suicide. He hanged himself in that place. This site is also known for being a center of spiritist sessions, and it is even said that there have been demonic possessions in the place. Currently, any of you can visit it, although it is recommended to take some protective measures, since there is a great energy load in the place that can affect physically, mentally, and spiritually. It is located between the streets of Jesus Maria and Fray Servando Teresa de Mier in the historical center of the city, a construction with centuries of antiquity, from the first era of the conquest. A very popular legend tells that in this place appears the ghost of a nurse, to which most already know by the nickname of the Ironed Woman, who in life had worn the name of Eulalia and who always dressed in an impeccable way, a very clean uniform, ironed and starched. There are several theories about her death. The most accepted would be these two. The first one tells that she was in love with a doctor. For a while they were dating, but one day they sent him to another state and he never returned, since he had married. Eulalia fell into a deep depression, so she began to distract herself in her work, so much so that she caused the death of some patients. Tormented by sadness and guilt, Eulalia died. The second, and that could be closer to reality, assures that the Ironed Woman died in the earthquake of 1985. It is said that at night this ghost reappears to care for the sick. There are multiple reports from more than 20 years ago of patients who assure that they have been attended at night by a mysterious nurse. A woman in 2008 had a complication during the night and had to be taken to intensive care. When she recovered and was able to talk to the medical staff, she assured that a nurse had approached to observe her during the night. She pretended to be asleep so as not to have to talk, because she was very tired. A few seconds later, the nurse left the room without her feet being seen. If you saw her walk, it seemed that the nurse had come out of the room floating. The patient panicked and had heart complications. Since then, there are less and less reports of apparitions of the Ironed Woman. In the third section of the forest of Chapultepec, surrounded by trees, ravines, and hanging bridges, is the very famous house of Antonia. Almost everyone in Mexico City or around them has heard of it, and there are some who claim to have been there. But neither the photos nor the videos that circulate on the network can show that the place photographed or recorded is truly the house of Aunt Antonia. They say it's close to the Dolores Pantheon, that it's in the most wooded part of Chapultepec, that it's in the deepest part of a ravine, that it's close to Constituyentes. It is said that Antonia was an exaggeratedly rich old woman, to whom her family only frequented for their money. The old woman decided to start helping the children on the street, attracting them, consulting them, inviting them to stay with her and to accompany her. However, at some point something drove her crazy. She began to scold them and punish them, then she even began to beat them to torture them when they behaved badly. When some of the children tried to escape, the old woman realized and managed to stop them, took them to a corner of the house and ended up killing them all one by one so that they could all see how he was killing each one of them so that they could feel the despair and the fear of seeing their friends die, and know what awaited their turn. Sometime later the old woman died, but it is said that her soul continues to roam through the corridors of the house, and if you get close enough, you will be able to see her, looking out through one of the windows.